الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أرحب بكم في بلدكم الدوحة، وأشكر لكم تفاعلكم وتجاوبكم مع الدعوة الطارئة لعقد هذه القمة. لقد تعرضت عاصمة بلدي الدوحة التي تنعقد فيها هذه القمة إلى اعتداء غادر استهدف خلاله أحد المساكن التي تقوم فيها عائلات القيادة السياسية لحركة حماس ووفدها المفاوض، وهذا في حي سكني يضم مدارس وبعثات دبلوماسية. وقد سقط جراء هذا العدوان 6 شهداء، ومن ضمنهم مواطن قطري يخدم في قوة الأمن الداخلي الأخوية، وأصيب 18 شخصاً بجراح.
Devastating war waged against the Palestinian people in Gaza, and that has turned into a genocide where they call for the liberation of the Israeli hostages. And the negotiations between Israel and Hamas were about to reach an achievement with the help of the sisterly country of Egypt and the United States of America. This has resulted in the liberation of many hostages in 2020 and 22. And such negotiations reached solutions, and Israel continued its intransigence and insisted on continuing the war, insisting on the liberation of all hostages and the liberation of all those taken hostage. The policy of Hamas was looking into a proposal mooted by America and received through us and from Egypt. It's quite clear that Israel, which was meant to be the other negotiating party, at least within the framework of this mediation, they were aware of the meeting in question being held in a well-determined venue with journalists and visitors and others. They were to focus on a paper prepared by America. Have you ever heard of such an aggression? A state that is working in a consistent manner for negotiations, a state that is party to the negotiations and yet aggresses the venue where the negotiations take place. If Israel wishes to assassinate the Hamas leaders, why then engage into negotiations? If you wish to insist on the liberation of hostages, why then do they assassinate all negotiators? How can we host in our country negotiating delegations from Israel, whereas they sent drones and planes for an air raid against our country? There is no need for questions. This is just a cowardly aggression. And there is no room to deal with such a party that is cowardly and treacherous. It's difficult and impossible to deal and negotiate with such a party and we need to expect anything from such a party. And the second reality that comes to the surface is that those who work consistently to assassinate the party that is in negotiation will certainly do everything to ensure the failure of negotiations. When they claim that they seek the liberation of hostages is a mere lie. Their objective is nothing of importance. It is the negotiations are only part and parcel of a scheme to fulfill their objectives. When they meet the world community's pressure, then they send negotiators and to therefore ensure the failure of negotiations. This has been their tradition. If they were to liberate the hostages, that's not their objective. What they really want is to ensure that Gaza is no longer livable They believe in what they term as the Greater Israel, and they take advantage of the war to expand the settlements and to achieve and undertake aggressions and incursions and to plan for other aggressions for the further expansion. The government of Israel claims that they have been putting in efforts and that and they undertake the same procedure. The other third reality that shows the treacherous character of the other party is that the Israeli government that claims that they have improved the situation in the Middle East, and they claim that they can intervene wherever and whenever they wish to ensure that the Arab region is under their dominance. And this is a mere myth. They claim that they're entitled and to do so. In Lebanon, the government of Libya is faced with assassinations and raids, and they seek to put the country in a civil war. Regarding Syria, the head of the government in question states clearly that there is no room for negotiation, as if the regions of Syria are part and parcel of Israel. We are fully confident that these plans will never see their way to achievement. Honorable participants, Israel claims that they are a democracy that is surrounded by enemies, whereas in fact they're building a colonialist occupation body carrying out crimes without limit. And the head of their government has been announcing that they have prevented the establishment of a Palestinian state. And they have shown their animosity and hostile stance towards the Palestinian Authority. Is the Palestinian Authority an enemy of Israel? These are two states that have signed agreements. There are other countries that have signed agreements in line with the Arab Peace Initiative. And had Israel accepted the Arab Peace Initiative, they would spare the region and itself so many tragedies. However, they not only refuse peace initiatives, but they wish to impose their own dominance and will. And whoever opposes them is, according to their claims, either terrorists or anti-Semites. Whereas at the same time, the government of the terrorists and the extremists in Israel are pursuing a policy of aggression everywhere. Each one of these three realities and truths deserve that we convene not only an emergency summit, but only to take necessary steps to face up to the bloodshed character of the Israeli government and the resulting continued genocide and displacement in Palestine. Secondly, aggressive intervention in Arab states. And thirdly, treacherous aggression against my country, where that has shown its peaceful character and intentions, and that has been gained respect of all parties. We, according to the international law, we are entitled to preserve our sovereignty and face up to the Israeli aggression. I welcome you once again and thank you, and wish this summit full success in taking appropriate and firm decisions. Wassalamu alaikum. Now I should like to give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Hussein Ibrahim Taha, Secretary General of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. You have the floor, sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Salatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. Altesse, Excellence.
Microphone, please.
Excellences,
Microphone,
Mesdames et
please.
Messieurs, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Emir
J'ai l'honneur
of Qatar, Your
de
Excellency,
vous,
Majesties,
de tout d'abord,
Heads of State,
procéder à votre
Your Excellency Mr. Ahmed Abul Ghaith, Secretary General of the League of Arab States, Your Excellencies and Highnesses, it is a great honor for me to extend to you,
chef de l'État du Qatar,
Your Excellency, the Emir of Qatar, wish to extend to you our profound thanks and appreciation for this invitation to convene this emergency Arab-Islamic conference, and this is an opportune occasion for us to express our solidarity against the aggression against the state of Qatar.
cette attaque.
This calls for all of us to take firm decisions against this hostile event
Excellence, ma recommandation à l'agression
and the Israeli aggression. Convening this summit is in continuation of the efforts of Qatar to consolidate solidarity and cooperation in defense of the Arab and Islamic causes. The OIC renews its full condemnation of this aggression against the sovereignty of state and the preservation of the peace in its territories, in line with the international rules and regulations. The OIC renews its full solidarity with the state of Qatar and support for all measures and steps taken to preserve its peace and solidarity. And we call upon the international community, and particularly the Security Council, to bear fully its responsibility to deter Israel against the various aggressions. This Israeli aggression against the state of Qatar represents a continuation of the aggressions against the Palestinian people and their holy sites. We would like here to renew the need to implement the decisions of the United Nations, particularly with regard to the ceasefire, and to allow free access of aid to the Gaza.
Et renforcer la capacité du gouvernement palestinien d'assumer ses responsabilités dans la bande de Gaza. Nous affirmons notre soutien au Conseil
support to the outcome of the international community regarding the settlement of the Palestinian cause.
à la conférence
We also support the implementation of the two-state solution in such a way as to allow the Palestinian people to exercise their legitimate rights, including self-determination, and to also give concretization to their sovereignty on the borders of 1967 with its eastern Jerusalem to be its capital in accordance with the United Nations decisions and the Arab Peace Initiative. We are confident that this summit will consolidate solidarity with the state of Qatar and effort. Wassalamu alaikum.
I give the floor to Ahmed Abul Ghaith, the Secretary General of the League of Arab States. Your Royal Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Emir of Qatar, Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, heads of states, heads of government, ladies and gentlemen. The Israeli crime assaulting the state of Qatar has crossed all lines and violated each and every humanitarian or legal principle. Please, negotiating teams, barbaric belligerence was worse, covered by false pretext. It is an unprecedented level of thuggery and violation of established principles and norms with impunity. Mr. Chair, allow me to address certain bullet points. First, assaulting peaceful, unsuspecting civilians, namely negotiating team, is not an act of courage. It is an act of malice, cowardice. It is a living proof of moral failure, unmatched and unprecedented in international relations. Second, this summit is convened not only to express solidarity with Qatar, which is a duty of each and every Arab and Muslim free man who rose against this cowardly, treacherous act by Israel. This summit sends out a message to the international community. The message says, enough silence to the acts of thuggery by this rogue state, which has been wreaking havoc, destruction, killing, and starvation within the region. Its leaders, for their exposed political gains or sick philosophies, are willing to plunge the region into a state of lynch law. Second, silence to criminality is per se a crime. Silence to violation of the international law undermines the international system. Silence to the barbaric genocide killing unfolding in Gaza has caused the leaders of the Israeli occupation forces that each and every act is possible and any crime can go unpunished. That's why they continue to spread destruction from one country to another, ignite the entire region, as if the entire world has plunged back into the ages of darkness and barbarism, which we thought had gone by for centuries. This government is led by a person wanted by the International Criminal Court. By their acts, he himself added yet another crime. That's why we call upon the advocates of the international law to intensify their efforts to continue to prosecute the criminals of the Israeli government and the crimes they continue to commit under false pretext without any grounds in any law or international norm. Finally, Mr. Chair, allow me to address the Israeli population. What your government is doing in your name cannot be forgotten. Crimes cannot be forgotten. Killing 63,000 people and starving the entire population in Gaza cannot be forgotten. And the recent assault, an act of belligerence on a peaceful sovereign state that has been acting as a mediator with an effort to put an end to the war and have the Israeli captives released, cannot be forgotten. What the Israeli government is doing in your name undermines any possible likelihood of peaceful coexisting in the region. Yet it would usher the region into a dark future where malice, hatred, and conflict would be prevalent. It is a rogue government. The draft agenda and the draft statement is presented for adoption. Due to absence of any remarks, the agenda and the timetable have been endorsed and adopted. Now we give the floor to the heads of delegations. We'll start by His Excellency Mohammed Shia al-Sudani, the Prime Minister of Iraq and the sitting President of the League of Arab States. In the name of God, the Omnipotent and Merciful, Your Royal Highness, the Emir of Qatar, Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, may God's peace and blessings be with you. I stand before you today expressing Iraq's official and popular position, reiterating our commitment to the collective responsibility to stand up to the recent developments within the region and what took place in Doha, the capital city of the brotherly state of Qatar, in a belligerent act that targeted a meeting which aimed at bringing the bloodshed in Gaza to an end and provide protection to the civilians. This assault represents an unprecedented and grave escalation, an utter violation of the international law and sanctity of diplomacy. It also undermines all efforts aiming at diffusing the crisis. And amid the efforts exerted by the state of Qatar in their mediation, it is a negative message which threatens at birth any attempt to reach an amicable, peaceful settlement. The Israeli government, with their impunity, continues to undermine the international law and UN Charter, which represents a direct threat to global peace and security. It is also a deliberate attempt to widen the circle of conflict within the region and pose threats to our respective countries. To the degree that they have spoken outly and openly about changing the international borders in an unprecedented act that violates all the international laws and also undermines all the rules and principles of sovereignty. If the Israeli practices and policies continues undeterred, will bring about but more destabilization. It will also deepen the circles of violence amid the ongoing genocide and starvation unraveling in Gaza. What is taking place in Gaza and West Bank, destruction of infrastructure, starvation, annexation of land, is not only a violation of international humanitarian laws, but it is also creating unprecedented humanitarian crises. It is also a grave threat to the regional security. And from this position, we reiterate that security and stability of any Arab or Muslim state is part and parcel of our collective security. The international organizations, bodies, and UN organs, including the permanent members, to live up to their legal and ethical responsibilities in the face of this deliberate efforts by Israel to undermine the international system in this part of the world. The current circumstances demand we move from merely the act of verbally condemning to taking action. That's why I propose the following. First, to hand down a uniform and united Arab and Islamic positions condemning the Israeli attack on Qatar, initiating the necessary legal actions which are conducive to bringing the Israeli government to account. Second, to address and stand up to any targeting of any Arab or Muslim country as a threat to the collective common security, which requires diplomatic and political action, as well as measures to prevent recurrence. Third, to work genuinely to form a wide, comprehensive, and Islamic alliance to shoulder and take advantage and channel all what is necessary to address the economic and social problems faced our people, to form a liaison group to address the UN Security Council, the European Parliament, and other international venues in order to address the same and defend and safeguard our people's rights. Then, to lay down a comprehensive roadmap to put an end to the genocide war in Gaza, followed by a reconstruction plan aiming to finally aim at a diplomatic course which would guarantee the restoration of the lawful Palestinian rights. 6, to reinforce the mechanism of coordination and communication among our respective countries to address any threat to our security and stability, and also to reinvigorate the collective defense system. Iraq reiterated express and condemnation of the series of military assaults undermining, targeting the security and stability of the region, and reiterate their total solidarity with the state of Qatar, the Palestinian people, and all the peoples who came under the Israeli attacks, be it Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, or Iran. Iraq, as the sitting president of the current session of the League of Arab States, that this urgent summit would be a milestone turning point in reinforcing the Arab unity, reinforcing the regional security, and taking the necessary measures to deter these assaults. This is a genuine opportunity to send a clear message that we are holding steadfast to peace and stability, and prove to the world that the security of our capital cities is not a bargain chip. The international system is coming under attack with the continued crimes committed by Israel with impunity and lack of due penalties. I give the floor to His Majesty King Abdullah II, the monarch of Georgia. In the name of Allah, the Omnipotent, the Merciful, and may God's peace be upon His sealed Prophet Muhammad. My brother, Your Royal Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, Your Majesties, Your Highnesses, may God's peace be upon you all. My heartfelt, deepest condolences to my brother, Your Royal Highness Sheikh Tamim, the Emir of Qatar, and the people of Qatar, as a result of the fall of the victim to the treacherous Israeli attack on Qatar. We condemn it as it is a flagrant violation of the international law, and it is also a grave escalation that would plunge the region into more conflicts. We are standing with you with all our resources, and we support any measure aimed at deterring and preventing such belligerence from recurring, and also safeguarding the safety, security, and stability of Qatar. Your safety and security is the same as ours. Our support is total and comprehensive. Israel's assault on Doha came after more than 2 years of the beginning of their ferocious genocide war on Gaza and the starvation of innocent civilians, during which Israel has been violating not only the international law, but all the human values. In the West Bank, Israel went far beyond from implementing the two-state solution, and they continue to undermine stability of Lebanon and Syria. And here, recently, they assault Qatar's sovereignty and security. The Israeli government continues with their hegemony simply for the reason that the international community has allowed them to stand above the law. We in the Arab and Muslim worlds must re-examine all the tools and dynamics of our joint action in order to stand up to the radical Israeli government. Our summit must come out with practical measures to address this grave threat, to bring the war in Gaza to an end, to prevent the forcible transfer of the Palestinian people in Gaza, and to protect and safeguard the holy sites of Jerusalem, and above all, to protect and safeguard our shared interests. The Israeli attack on Qatar is a living proof that Israel's threat is without limit. Our response must be clear, decisive, and above all, deterring. Thank you, Your Majesty, the Monarch of Jordan. Now I give the floor to His Excellency Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the President of Egypt.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
In the name of Allah,
أخي صاحب السمو
the unlimited, the
الشيخ
merciful, my brothers, Your Royal Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Emir of Qatar,
أصحاب الجلالة والفخامة
Your Royal Highnesses,
ملوك ورؤساء وأمراء الدول
monarchs
العربية
and heads of Arab and Muslim states,
معالي السيد أحمد أبو الغيط
Your Excellency Ahmed Abul Ghaid, the Secretary General of the League of Arab
معالي
States,
السيد حسين إبراهيم طه
Your Excellency Sir Hussein Taha, the Secretary General of OIC.
ورحمة الله.
May God's peace be upon you all.
أود بداية
At the outset,
أن أعبر
I would
عن
like
خالص
to
التقدير
express my deep appreciation to His Royal Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani and the State of Qatar for hosting this important summit, which is convened at a very critical moment amid grave challenges faced by the entire region, where Israel attempts to turn into a legitimized battle of violations, which matter undermines the stability of the entire region and represents a grave threat to the international peace and security and the well-established principles of the international system. I would like to convey to the leadership and people of the brotherly state of Qatar, Egypt's total solidarity and support with their brothers in the face of this malicious Israeli attack on Qatar, which constitutes a flagrant and blatant violation of the international law, the UN Charter, and it is also a grave, unprecedented threat to the Arab and Muslim security. Let me make it clear. This belligerence reflects clearly that the Israeli practices have gone beyond any diplomatic or military logic. And above all, they have crossed all red lines. We strongly condemn the Israeli belligerence on Qatar, on the sovereignty and security of an Arab state, playing a pivotal role as a mediator together with Egypt and the United States, aiming to reach a ceasefire in Gaza, bring the war to an end, and also bring the unprecedented suffering of the Palestinian population to a halt. I also warn the uncontrolled, unhinged Israeli behaviors would widen the circle of conflict and plunge the entire region into further escalation, which cannot be tolerated. While Egypt is calling the international community to live up to their legal and ethical responsibility to ensure the Israeli attacks would never recur and to bring the belligerent war to an end, including the necessary matter of bringing those responsible for the grave violations to accountability and to put an end to the state of impunity that has been the answer to all Israel's practices. Yet it has come clear that the aggressive, belligerent approach adopted by the Israeli authorities is a hidden intent to undermine any attempts to reach a ceasefire and have all the Israeli captives and Palestinian detainees released. This approach proves that the Israeli officials have no genuine intention to have peace established in the region. Israel's hubris and unhinged action require us, as the leaders of both the Arab and Muslim worlds, to act together to lay down foundations and principles reflective and representative of our shared interests. The League of Arab States has handed down resolution titled "The Shared Vision of Cooperation within the region can be the nucleus to build upon as a linchpin to security and stability in the region, and also to lay down the necessary mechanism to address this critical moment as we are living in a state of condition where we cannot tolerate any hegemony which would undermine the sovereignty, stability, or security of any Arab or Muslim state. Israel must understand that their security and stability cannot be established by the policy of force, aggression, and belligerence, yet by respect to the sovereignty of Arab and Muslim states, which cannot be undermined under any pretext. These principles are firm and non-negotiable. Therefore, the entire world must realize that Israel policies undermines any likelihood of establishing peace in the region and turns a blind eye to the international law, the established humanitarian norms and values. Any such demeanor would bring about not but more instability and escalation, and will bring about graver consequences on the regional and international peace and security. And to the Israeli people, I say, what is taking place undermines any future likelihood of peace. It also undermines your security and regional security, and it lays down more obstacles before or on the road of any new peace agreements, and above all, it eviscerates the existing peace proposals. And again, the region will plunge once again in the mayhem of conflict and will waste decades of efforts aiming at building peace, a heavy price which we all pay without exception. Make no mistake that the efforts made by our ancestors cannot be allowed to go down the drain. Egypt reiterates its total rejection to the targeting of civilians and the policies of collective punishment and starvation exercised by Israel in Gaza Strip. As a result, tens of thousands of civilians have fallen victims over the past 2 years. I here emphasize that military solutions and undermining mediation efforts in an attempt to create a new reality by belligerent force will not bring about any stability or security to either party. And within this context, Egypt will continue with its unshaken support to the steadfastness of the Palestinian people and the restoration of their lawful rights, and will stand up to any attempts aiming at undermining these unalienable rights, whether by illegal settlement, annexation of land, or forcible transfer of the Palestinians, or uprooting the Palestinian population out of their homeland under false pretext. Egypt once again reiterates their total rejection of any proposals which may be conducive to forcibly transferring the Palestinians out of their homeland. They are groundless in law or in ethics. It will bring about nothing but will widen the circle of conflict and shake the foundation of stability in the entire region. Time is opportune to seriously and firmly deal with the Palestinian-Israeli conflict as the key to security and stability in the region. The total and comprehensive solution to the focal cause of both the Arab and Muslim world stands upon ending the occupation and the establishment of the sovereign independent Palestinian state on the 1967 border with East Jerusalem as its capital. And within this context, Egypt is looking forward to that the two-state solution to be held on September 22nd at a high level, along with the UN General Assembly in New York, will be a milestone on the course of establishing a lasting and comprehensive solution to the Palestinian conflict, namely by the recognition of the State of Palestine. And here I renew the call to immediately recognize the State of Palestine by all the states who have not yet. This is the only means to maintain the two-state solution alive. This is a defining moment which demands us to be united. This unity will be a solid foundation to stand up to the challenges faced our region, to steer away from plunging into more chaos, conflicts, or allowing to create new realities that dictate new circumstances on the ground. Our message today is clear. Any assault to our sovereignty cannot be tolerated. All attempts to undermine peace efforts cannot be tolerated. We will stand united, defending and safeguarding the Arab and Muslim interest, namely the right of the Palestinian people to establish their independent sovereign state and live in dignity and freedom. Finally, our stance must change the perspective. The enemy is looking at us, who believe that any Arab states from the Gulf to the ocean, this perspective, in order to be changed, require firm recommendations that must be put into implementation in order to deter any adventurous politician. At this defining historical moment, we are required to create an Arab and Muslim mechanisms of cooperation which enable us to stand up to all security, political, and economical challenges facing us. The establishment of these dynamics now will be a forefront to reinforce our efforts and take necessary, tangible measures to safeguard our security and protect our shared interests. Egypt, as always, extends its arms to all genuine efforts aiming at establishing just and lasting peace in the Arab and Muslim world and within the region.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Sayın Devlet ve Hükümet Başkanları, kıymetli heyet üyeleri, değerli kardeşlerim, her birinizi en kalbi duygularımla, hürmetle,
Your Majesties, Your Excellencies, heads of states, heads of government, heads of delegations, I extend all appreciation. May God's peace and blessings be with you. At the outset, I extend appreciation to my brother, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Emir of Qatar, for hosting this summit. And I start by praying to God Almighty to accept in His mercy the fallen martyrs who have fallen to the belligerent, treacherous assault by Israel on Qatar, and to grant speed recovery to the wounded. Since October 7, 2023, we have repeatedly convened summits, both of the League of Arab States and OIC, as a result of the ongoing genocide war by Israel on Gaza. Israel's war has become a threat not only to Gaza but the whole world. It is Israel has widened the circles of its belligerents to reach Yemen, Lebanon, and Syria, causing more casualties. Even the flotilla fleet off the coast of Tunisia came under attack.
هذا العدوان الأخير نقل عربدة إسرائيل إلى مستوى مختلف تماما غير
This
مسبوق.
is
ومن
a
هنا
living proof
تأتي
of
رمزية
Israel's
وأهمية
thuggery and
انعقاد
unhinged
هذه
behavior
القمة
within
اليوم في
the
الدوحة.
region.
أؤكد أن الرأي العام العالمي يجب أن يرى اجتماعنا هذا تعبيرا صريحا عن الدعم غير المشروط الذي يكنه العالم الإسلامي لدولة قطر. وآمل أن تترجم قراراتنا اليوم هذه الروح الأخوية الصادقة إلى إعلان مكتوب موجه إلى العالم أجمع.
We should send a clear message to the whole world.
يسعدني أن أشيد بحكمتي
I
وشجاعة
must
أخي
commend
الأمير الشيخ
the
تميم
wisdom
في هذه الأزمة
of
وأجدد
His Royal Highness, the Emir of Qatar,
وقوف
and the administration of this crisis. And I also commend the solidarity demonstrated by all the Arab and Muslim states with the state of Qatar. It has become clear that Netanyahu's government aims to continue with their act of genocide in Gaza and at the same time continue with their crimes in order to plunge the entire region into mayhem. We are met by a greedy, bloodthirsty mentality among the Israeli officials as they continue to violate the tenets of the international law, the UN Charter, especially that the Israeli entity continues to go with impunity.
وهو ما يظهر عمليا في مساعيهم لتوسيع الاحتلال في دول الجوار. لكن الأمة الإسلامية بعون الله تعالى تملك من القدرة والإمكانات ما يكفي لإحباط هذه الأطماع التوسعية.
Foil these irredentist ideas. The crimes of the Netanyahu government has become a burden even for its supporters. The attacks, the horrendous attacks against Qatar even embarrassed those who are giving support to Israel to open up. The declaration of some states to recognize Palestinian statehood is also an important thing, even though it did not come earlier enough. These steps, however, would not achieve the desired objectives unless they are supported with strong punishment against Israel. We have to intensify our efforts, our diplomatic efforts, to increase.
It will continue with their policies and practices. And above all, the Israeli officials must be brought to justice. This can be achieved through the channels of the international law. We are aware that Israel's policies of occupation, destruction, assassination, and genocide will not come to an end unless it is met with sanctions, severe sanctions, and penalties. We have the means and resources to do so. Therefore, it is imperative to achieve self-sufficiency in many critical domains, namely the deterring defense industries. And we are prepared to share our expertise and capabilities with you. We are required to intensify our cooperation within these domains in order to ensure a safe and bright futures to our respective generations. I also reiterate, more economic pressures must be exercised on Israel. History has it that these measures are very impactful against Israel. We in Turkey, for 1.5 years, have halted all our commercial dealings with Israel, giving up about $9.5 billion of revenues every year. Also, endorsing the proceedings brought the International Court of Justice is of great significance. In addition to that, we should develop practical mechanism within the framework of the OIC in order to reinforce our regional security. We will continue with our efforts in this direction until the state of Palestine, sovereign and independent state of Palestine, is established on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. A state sovereign, independent, with one territorial integrity. We cannot accept the genocide to continue, the ethnic cleansing to go on, or the forcible transfer of the Palestinians be made. We support any measure aiming at deterring the recurrence of the Israeli violation, and we hope that the outcomes of this summit will be closely monitored and put into implementation. And I thank you for hosting and convening this urgent summit. President of Palestine. In the name of Allah, the Omnipotent, the Merciful, as God says in the Holy Scripture, "O you have believed, stand steadfast with perseverance and be watchful of Allah, so you may succeed." Your Royal Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Emir of Qatar, Your Majesties, Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, Mr. Ahmed Abul Ghaid, the Secretary General of the League of Arab States, Mr. Hussein Taha, the Secretary General of OIC, may God's peace and blessings be with you. This summit is convened here in Doha today to stand united, shoulder to shoulder with the state of Qatar, its leadership and people, expressing our total solidarity with them in the face of the belligerent, treacherous Israeli assault, reiterating that undermining the security and stability of any Arab and Islamic state is meaning undermine our shared common security and stability. We strongly condemn the Israeli assault, and we call upon the international community to live up to its responsibility to hold Israel liable and responsible for their crimes and their repeated assault on our countries and peoples. And in this direction, we call for deterring practical measures to prevent any recurrence of these violations. We reiterate that the linchpin to security and stability in our region lies in bringing the genocide war, starvation and forcible transfer, and the gobbling up of territories and to an end, and also to ensure the withdrawal of the Israeli occupation forces to the 1967 borders and the establishment of the Palestinian states on that basis. The continued aggression by Israel, not only on Palestine, but also on Arab and Muslim countries. Recently, Qatar, the radical far-right government of Israel cannot be a partner to peace and security in our region. This demands a firm Arab and Muslim position and firm intervention by the United States and the Security Council to bring the rogue states and its behavior to an end. The state of Palestine highly commend the positions adopted by the Arab and Muslim states in support of our people to have the Israeli genocide war coming to an end, allow the delivery of relief aid and withdrawal of the occupation forces, namely the efforts made by the co-mediators, Egypt and Qatar. To this effect, we also extend thanks and appreciation to all other friendly and brotherly states taking part in the International Peace Conference in New York, to be chaired by both France and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, whose concerted efforts brought about more recognition of the state of Palestine by a number of world states and rallying international support until we restore our freedom and established rights as well as our independence. In conclusion, we reiterate our thanks and appreciation to the state of Qatar, leadership and government for organizing and hosting this emergency summit. Equally to all the heads of state and heads of delegation taking part. Thank you, Mr. President. Now, I give the floor to President Imam Ali, the President of Tajikistan. Your Royal Highness, the Emir of Qatar, the chair of this summit, Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, Your Excellencies, heads of states and heads of delegations. The Israeli airstrike on the state of Qatar that took place on September 9th gives rise to profound sorrow and regret. It is a flagrant violation of the sovereignty of a brotherly state, and we reiterate our total condemnation of this act of belligerence, which represents a blatant violation of the international law and the basic tenets of the UN Charter. Any act of violence in the region will lead to further escalations and the eruption of further conflicts. It will also undermine any attempt to restore lasting peace and security or to engage in any fruitful negotiations. Although these provocative acts of belligerence were widely condemned by many world states, the violations of the member states continued over the past few months. Regretfully, over the past 2 years, the international community has been witnessing the catastrophic humanitarian condition unraveling in Gaza, and the ambitions of the Palestinian people remain a very compelling item on the agenda of the international community. Amid the complicated and complex geopolitical conditions, reinforcing the unity of the Arab and Muslim nation has become a true necessity.
Well, we'll leave that conference just for the time being as leaders of the Islamic and Arab world convene together. That's the president of Tajikistan speaking there. We had, of course, the Emir of Qatar talking and opening the proceedings there, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, talking about how this attack on Doha proved that the hostage release was not a priority, saying that Benjamin Netanyahu.
بدون همکاری ثمربخش و سودمند ما در ساحه‌های تجارت و اقتصاد، سرمایه‌گذاری و فناوری‌های پیشرفته، دستیابی ما به هدف‌های عالی سازمان غیر امکان است. رشد باثبات اقتصادی و اجتماعی کشورهای عضو سازمان همکاری اسلامی ضمانتی با اعتمادی تأمین امنیت و ثبات و نیکوحوالی امت مسلمان می باشد. کشورهای جهان اسلام دارای اقتدار بزرگ مالیوی، صنعتی، ذخیره‌های طبیعی و مهنتی می باشد. در این زمینه ما برای مساعدت به همدیگر جهت تطبیق برنامه و لایحه‌های دارای اهمیت ملی و منطقوی امکانات زیاد داریم. حاضرین گرامی، امروز امت مسلمان روبروی خطرهای فاجعه‌بار تروریسم، افراطگرایی و دیگر تهدیدها به تمدن بشری قرار دارد. در مبارزه با این عامل‌های خطرزا برخورد یگانه و رویکرد مشترک ما تقاضای زمان می‌باشد. متفکران و نابغه‌های دین مبین اسلام از جمله گذشتگان ما و شما در تشکل یابی تمدن بشری بخصوص فرهنگ صلح آفری و همزیستی مسئولیت آمیز سهم نهایت بزرگ دارند. با تکیه به این میراث پرغناوت مشترک ما باید مفکوره جامعه های خود را در رویه ارزش‌های نیک و سازنده تکمیل داده و جهانیان همبستگی امت مسلمان را نشان دهیم. امید داریم که جلسه امروزه ما با تقویت اتحاد و همبستگی در مقابل خطر و خطرهای زمان معاصر و پیشگیری از همه گونه پایمالسازی قانون‌های پذیرفته شده بین المللی تاثیرگذار خواهد بود. از توجهتان سپاس.